Hello, fellow students. So I selected the Churrasco Brasileiro, or the Brazilian barbecue, as it was one of my very first cultural culinary experiences following my arrival in Brazil in 1980. And I've embraced it ever since. And I had previous positive experience with my family gatherings of a culinary nature in Thailand and then Iran, but being the inveterate meat lover I am, this Brazilian tradition was right up my alley. I immediately recognized it as a distinct cultural heritage which brought families and friends together. Its origins extend all the way back to the Iberian Peninsula in the times of the Moors, and the word churrasco is a derivative of the Spanish word churrasquear, meaning to grill or roast over an open flame, and from the Portuguese word churrascaria, meaning skewer or spit. This type of grilling was popular in Portugal and it traversed the Atlantic to their new colony on the South American continent, that being Brazil. By the 17th century, the local gauchos, the term used for Brazilian cowboys, were raising and herding cattle across southern Brazil's large pampas. The gauchos placed their own spin on churrasco and it became a national culinary trademark and still one of the most popular communal events in Brazil and Brazilian communities throughout the world. Although it's evolved and refined since then, its basic roots are unchanged. And with a variety of meats cooked over an open flame and served fresh, the churrasco remains a catalyst for bringing family, relatives, and friends together. These gatherings can last for hours as they are truly social events. And at the Churrasco, lively debates will unfold on a wide range of topics, creating a symphony of excited conversation that fills the air, and young, playful children are weaving in and out through it the whole time. For me, as a newly arrived foreigner, the community acceptance, the friendly banter, and the warm ambiance of the churrasco was addicting, and I set out to learn how I too could be a conductor of the churrasco orchestra. It was not long before I became pretty good at it and was soon hosting my own gatherings and still do 45 years later. I have had the opportunity to introduce churrasco to family, friends, neighbors, and teammates in New York, Mexico, Montreal, Texas, California, Kentucky, Florida, and probably a few other places I can't even remember anymore. So, for the purpose of this class, I've downscaled a bit, but the ingredients I'm using are the backbone of every churrasco. The recipe is simple, and I'm using picanha, a cut of beef in the USA, better known as sirloin cap, amongst a few other names, rock salt to flavor the picanha, and Brazilian pork sausage, and some side dishes of rice, molho campanha, which is a Brazilian vinaigrette, and farofa, which is a toasted cassava flour made from yucca and inherited from the indigenous tribes of the Amazon basin. I have also assembled the accessories required, such as a good sharp knife, a good cutting board, a skewer, and of course a gas grill. The gas grill requires a bit of the chef having to adapt from organic charcoal to gas, but with a little technique, it can be done. So here we are with our little Brazilian churrasco experience. And unfortunately, this is not the 17th century. I don't have a huge herd of cattle out in the backyard, or a huge fire pit, or a recently butchered cow. But this is how we're going to do it in today's world. And as you can see, I have the staging area prepared. We have a good grill, and then we have to have all the proper utensils. So we have a great meat fork, a couple of great meat knives, honing stone, and a skewer for our picanha with a couple of cutting boards, a couple of serving plates. And of course, here we have our picanha. It's about 3 pounds of sirloin cap. It's very well marbled. And we have our Brazilian pork sausage. And the sausage and the meat were just recently purchased today at Seabra, which is a local supermarket that caters to of the Latin American population and predominantly the Brazilian population here in Central America, Orlando. So we will begin to prepare our meats to put on the grill. Good morning, fellow students. So here we are in the preparations of cutting our picanha into slices so that we can put it on the skewer. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to cut it with the grain, and we're going to cut it into slices like so. And that gives us a couple of really nice looking picanhas. And we'll curl that up, and then we'll put that on the skewer. Okay, fellow students, so now we're getting ready to curl the picanha up and apply it to the spit so that we have good cooking going on here. And we'll do the second one. Be careful that I don't get my own fingers. Okay. And we are ready. And we'll salt this a little bit. We don't want to put too much salt on, but make sure you get enough to where it will create a seal around the beef. You don't have to tap it, just sprinkle it on there. Okay. And we'll let that set for a minute so that it creates a seal on it and cut. Okay, so we are ready to throw our food on the fire. I'm going to put a couple of sausages up here for the time being, because they take a little bit longer to cook. But we will lay that right there, and we will close that up. Oh man, look at that. Oh, that smell of that picanha. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? And that sausage is getting just about to the point. That picanha is about ready to cut. We'll let it go. So we're going to get the sausage out here first, and we'll cut that sausage up. And the way I like to slice that is nice slices like so. This Brazilian pork sausage is so delicious. Argentine pork sausage is very similar. Uruguayan is very similar, but I cannot find an American sausage that is quite like this, although there are good American sausages. Okay, we need to just get a little edge on our knife here before we cut that into that picanha. And here we go. First cut. Let's go. We'll just drop that down there a little bit like so. Check that out. It doesn't get any better if you're a meat lover. And we'll put a little bit more salt on there. And we'll throw that back on that fire. Okay, fellow students, we are ready to start serving. And I'm going to start out with a little bit of rice, which is a very big staple of Brazil, as many places in the world. And we'll put some of our farofa, which is the toasted yucca root. And then we'll place some of our mole campanha or vinaigrette. And I like to put it right on top of that because it is so delicious. And of course, here is our beef. And I like my beef rare, of course. Man. And then we'll throw a couple pieces of sausage on there. And let's see how this turned out. So I'm just going to go for a bite of meat first, and a little bit of this here, and man, that is so good. God, that brings back so many memories. What a great plate. Good any time of the year, any event. And we'll wash it down with a little bit of Guaraná, which is the champagne of the Amazon. It's a Brazilian soda pop made from a palm type fruit in the Amazon. Again, adopted from the indigenous Indians. But anyway, bon appetit. So, for my final reflections, as I was cooking, the familiar odor of the Brazilian roast was wafting through the air and invading my nostrils and began to unlock those memories of when I first arrived in Brazil and how I was a stranger in a strange land. And following the first cut of the picanha, that mouth-watering succulence reminded me of how Churrasco and its magical power of fomenting closeness of family and bringing friends together was one of the paths so instrumental to my embracing the Brazilian culture and basically going indigenous. It reminded me of how I comfortably embodied the two cultures over the years, both American and Brazilian, and I recalled all the great get togethers and the countless acquaintances and long lasting friendships made at these events. Churrasco became a regular and integral part of both my personal and professional networking during my decades in Brazil, and even following my repatriation in 2020 to Orlando. The large Brazilian community here still allows me the privilege to continue practicing this wonderful traditional ritual with family and friends.